Live now to Montreal, here's Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
Que seulement entre 5 et 10%
Between 5 and 10% of signal fraud is actually crime. After the lost Liberal decade, criminality has increased. The cost of living has increased, especially groceries, and the most vulnerable Canadians, more specifically our seniors, are left to themselves and exposed to criminal fraud. Seniors are now targeted by fraudsters. And we've all seen the text messages, the phone calls. They are sometimes easy to see, but not always. And with progress in AI and other technologies, these frauds are more and more sophisticated and scary. Anybody can be had, and a successful fraud can empty someone's savings. This fraud is a real source of anxiety for our seniors who are afraid that the technological progress means that they won't be able to trust themselves to judge what is real and what is false. The family members who have parents and grandparents also know the stress related to knowing that their loved ones are being targeted, which is why a Conservative government will take care of our seniors and put an end to fraud so that they and their families can feel safe once again. The good news is that banks and telecom companies already have tools, AI tools, advanced AI tools, so that we can counter fraud. If they can follow your next purchase, they can stop a fraud attempt before it happens. The bad news is that Liberals have not forced them to do it. There's no automatic detection and no way to keep them to account, which is why I'm announcing today a change, a plan to stop fraudsters targeting Canadians, with a law preventing fraud for seniors, a full of common sense law that makes it mandatory for banks and telecom companies to have advanced technology to detect fraud and stop it before it happens, and not just once it's too late. Here's the plan. One, we're going to require banks and telecom companies and cell phone companies that they put in place fraud detection systems, especially for high-risk accounts, such as those of seniors who are over the age of 65. Two, we are going to force the signaling and blocking of suspect activities such as unusual money transfers or automated phone calls. Three, we're going to create a protection protocol for transaction, a mandatory delay, 24 hours for high-risk transactions on seniors' accounts or on accounts of anybody who require protection, during which a verification call or control call must happen. Four, we're going to force requirements for public reports so that Canadians know how many frauds are blocked or attempted. Five, we're going to impose mandatory sentences of 1 year for frauds that are over $5,000 and 3 years for fraud over $100,000 and 5 years for more than $1 million and minimum 10 times the fraud. So stealing $50,000, you're going to pay at least $500,000 on top of going to prison for 3 years. Six, we're going to impose sanctions up to $5 million per infraction for deliberate negligence if you don't have adequate tools to prevent fraud. This will be for banks and telecom companies. And seven, we're going to create a new infraction in the criminal code. So voluntary blindness for those who are responsible. Our seniors deserve to feel safe when they use their phones, their iPads, or their computers. So if you are a bank or a telecom company and you don't do everything you can to protect seniors, you're going to pay the price, period. All Canadians deserve to be protected against criminality. And under 3 Liberal mandates, all they've gotten are broken promises and bad policies. Violent crimes have increased by 50%. Crimes with weapons have increased by 116%, double when Liberals focus on sporting shooters instead of stopping real criminals and weapons traffickers. Murders by gang members have gone up by 78%, car theft 46%, extortion 357%. We need a new Conservative government that's going to stop crime, protect victims, get criminals off the street to put them behind bars, in prison, and not free on parole. Only a Conservative government will adopt that change. We will adopt the 3 strikes law, which will stop criminals who have been found guilty of 3 serious infractions to receive probation or home detention. We will condemn human traffickers, fentanyl, and weapon traffickers. We will also reintroduce laws that enable judges to give consecutive sentences for those with multiple murders. So common sense that includes no reduced sentences for murderers. I announced yesterday that I would do consecutive sentences. Mr. Carney used an explosive language when he countered my proposition. He said that it was dangerous to keep criminals in prison for life, even those who killed 4 or 5 people. Mr. Carney, do you know what dangerous means? Murder. Do you know what is dangerous, Mr. Carney? Letting the worst criminals go in the streets to kill innocents. Do you know what dangerous is? Liberal laws that caused chaos in our streets. That is dangerous. Re-electing Liberals for a 4th mandate is dangerous, Mr. Carney. It needs to change to protect the safety of each Canadian, and yes, it's going to change. Liberal laws like C5 that the Conservatives were opposed, but it means that criminals can have Netflix doing that at home. We learned from TVA today that because of this liberal law, C5, more than 700 sexual deviants just in Quebec were able to have their sentences at home, those Netflix sentences. That's an increase of more than 600% of number of dangerous sexual deviants who are purging their sentences within the comfort of their homes because Liberals adopted the C5 law with the support of the Bloc, by the way. So you know what's dangerous, Mr. Carney? That is dangerous. It is dangerous to have criminals like this in their homes. This is why Pierre Poilievre, Conservative MP, put a law to reverse C5. You know what's dangerous, Mr. Carney? After 10 years of your party in power, it is law C75 that means that violent criminals can leave a few hours after their arrest again and again. Last week in Vancouver, a man set fire to 2 police officers. That is dangerous, Mr. Carney. When criminals that are set free by your liberal laws set fire to police officers, that's really dangerous. We now know that criminals who attack agents were set free on probation for violent crimes. So that is very dangerous, Mr. Carney. The choice offered to Canadians, a 4th Liberal mandate that means that sexual deviants and violent criminals to have their sentences at home and being set free to attack other people, or a change in government with Conservatives who will put dangerous criminals in prison for change. Our seniors cannot afford a 4th Liberal mandate with increased costs and criminality and our declining economy under the thumb of the U.S. They need a new Conservative government to reestablish the promise of Canada that a life of hard work means that you have a good pension, a nice retirement, in an affordable home on a safe street. That is the promise of Canada, and that's what I want for my parents and your parents. That's what we want for the future of Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's great to be in Montreal with our incredible team that's going to deliver change to Canada. Our Canada First Conservative team joins me for this important announcement as we approach the key decision day in this change election. And the decision, of course, is that after a lost Liberal decade of skyrocketing cost of living and crime, do the Liberals deserve a 4th term? Or is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, unleash home building and resource development, bring home our jobs, to make our country strong for a change? That's the decision before us. But one of the things we have to do to bring home the Canadian promise, the promise that hard work gets you a good life in an affordable house on a safe street, is to protect our seniors. Imagine spending your life working hard, saving carefully, preparing for your retirement, only to see it all disappear seconds after a scammer comes in and takes over. One call, one click, and it's gone. Unfortunately, this is the experience of thousands of Canadians who have fallen victim to increasingly sophisticated frauds in recent years. After the lost Liberal decade with costs and crime up, the most vulnerable Canadians, especially our seniors, are left behind. They cannot risk a 4th Liberal term. A growing threat to all Canadians, but especially seniors, is predatory telephone and online scams. Let's hear some examples. An 81-year-old Montreal woman robbed of $100,000 when someone called pretending to be from her bank in a telephone scam described as sleek and professional. And in June of last year, again, right here in Montreal, 8 young men and women were scammed out of $30 million. 8 young men and women carried out a scam of seniors worth $30 million. According to conversations recorded by and obtained by police, the scammers started each call with the words, "Hi, Grandpa, hi, Grandma." And in Ottawa last year, 2 seniors were scammed out of $500,000 each in a new and sophisticated version of what the police call the grandparent scam, where criminals claim to be loved ones having financial trouble and needing money for bail. And in the recent and possibly the most harrowing case of all, a grandmother received a call late at night from what she thought was her son, telling her he had been arrested and needed thousands of dollars for bail. Only it wasn't her son. It was criminals using AI to mimic her son's voice, exactly designed to convince her to pay up. Can you imagine that? Do you imagine your 80-year-old mother getting a phone call from a voice that she thinks is yours? and you are asking her for money, of course, your loving mother or grandmother would do anything for her kids or grandkids. And that heart of gold then makes her vulnerable to the worst, most sociopathic scam artists. How could anyone use the altruism of a mother to rob them of their life savings? It is appalling. In 2022, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Detection Centre received 17,000 reports of scammers targeting seniors, totaling $137 million in losses. That's just the tip of the iceberg, because only 5 or 10% of these cases even get reported. But we've all seen them. The suspicious text messages and robocalls, sometimes they're easy to spot, but not always. But with AI and other technologies, the scams are more sophisticated and persuasive. Anyone can be taken in, and successful scams can drain savings from within minutes. A lifetime of hard work can be robbed from the most wonderful people. These scams are a source of real anxiety for seniors who may worry that technological development means they can't trust anything is real anymore. Family members of older parents and grandparents know the stress well. I have 2 parents that are over 80. I'm not going to tell you exactly their age because my mother will kill me. She never told me her age. She accidentally entered it in Facebook when she set up her account, and that was how I finally learned her exact age. But anyway, we won't. She's still 39, if the truth be told, and she's my most important advisor. But we all love our parents, and we worry about them. We worry that life is becoming more complicated and dangerous for them, and that's why we need to protect our seniors, especially in this modern age. But the bad news is that after the lost Liberal decade, no action has been taken. No mandatory detection, no mandatory reporting, no accountability, even though these tools exist. That's why today I am announcing our plan to stop scammers who target Canadian seniors. We're going to pass the Stop Scamming Seniors Act, a common-sense law that forces banks and telecom companies to deploy state-of-the-art technology to catch scams and stop them before they happen, not after, when it is too late. This plan has a number of key steps. 1, we will mandate real-time scam detection systems by banks and telecoms, starting with seniors' accounts. 2, we will require automatic flagging and blocking of suspicious activity like unusual transactions or robocall traffic. 3, we will create the Seniors Transaction Shielding Protocol, a 24-hour hold on a high-risk transaction for seniors or anyone else who requests this extra protection, with mandatory verification before money leaves their accounts. 4, we will impose public reporting requirements so Canadians know how many scams are being blocked or missed. 5, we will impose mandatory jail time of 1 year for $5,000 of fraud, 3 years for a fraud of over $100,000, 5 years for fraud over $1 million, and minimum fines that are 10 times the size of the frauds committed. You steal 50 grand, you'll pay 500 grand on top of your jail sentence. We want to financially cripple the fraudsters to deter their greed. 6, we will introduce tough penalties with up to $5 million per violation for companies that fail to deploy the latest technology to stop scams. 7, we will create a new criminal code offense, willful blind profiteering from fraud, holding executives criminally responsible if they knowingly let scams go unchecked. Our seniors deserve to feel safe and secure when they pick up their phones, iPads, or computers. So if you are a bank or telco, we want you to do everything you can to protect our beloved seniors who built this country. Under my government, we're going to stop these fraudsters, period. All Canadians deserve protection from crime. But under 3 terms of Liberals, all they've gotten is broken promises and failed policies. Violent crime is up 50%, gun crime up 116%, gang homicides up 78%, auto theft up 46%, and extortion up an eye-watering 357%. Enough. We need a new Conservative government that will stop crime, protect victims, and get criminals off the street locked behind bars, not on bail, not on parole. Only a new Conservative government will do that. We'll pass a 3 strikes you're out law. making anyone who's done 3 serious crimes ineligible for bail, parole, probation, or house arrest, with a minimum of 10 years behind bars and earned release required after that through perfect behavior, clean drug tests, and learning an employable skill. We will give life sentences to traffickers of human beings, of guns, and of fentanyl. And we will reintroduce a law that allows judges to impose consecutive sentences for multiple murderers. We will ensure multiple murderers never get out of jail. They will come out only in a box. Common sense sentencing with no more discounts for multiple murderers. Now, on this point, I have to say I was shocked by the incendiary comments of Mark Carney yesterday. Yesterday, Mark Carney said it was dangerous to keep multiple murderers in jail for life. Mr. Carney, do you know what's dangerous? Murder is dangerous. What's dangerous is liberal laws that allow repeat murderers and repeat violent offenders to be released again and again on our streets. That is what's dangerous. You know what else is dangerous, Mr. Carney? Your house arrest law, passed by Liberals, which you want to keep in place, that allows the most violent predators to do their sentences in the comfort of their living room watching Netflix. Liberal law C5 allowed more than 700 sex offenders in Quebec to do their sentences at home. That's a 600% increase. Conservatives will repeal this dangerous Liberal law. You know what else is dangerous, Mr. Carney? Liberal Bill C-75, which lets violent criminals free within hours of their most recent arrest over and over and over again. You know what's dangerous, Mr. Carney? Last week in Vancouver, a man set 2 police officers on fire. We have since learned that the criminal who attacked these officers was out on bail and had 10, count them, Mr. Carney, outstanding charges, including for violent crimes. That's dangerous. And you know what's most dangerous of all? A 4th Liberal term of catch and release crime and chaos in our streets. So that's the choice. After a lost Liberal decade of skyrocketing crime and cost of living, of criminals released again and again, do you want to give them a 4th term? Or is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will lock up criminals and make life affordable? Canadian seniors cannot afford a 4th Liberal term of crime and chaos. They need change. They need a new Conservative government that will restore Canada's promise. And that is what we will do. Not only will we protect seniors from crime, we will cut their income tax by 15%, allow them to earn up to $34,000 tax-free, and to keep their savings growing longer, should they so choose. Because the Canadian promise belongs most of all to the people who built our country, our seniors, our loved ones, our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents. They deserve the Canadian promise that their hard work gets them a beautiful home on a safe street under our proud flag. That's the change we want. Let's put Canada first for a change and bring it home. Thank you.
Merci. On va maintenant passer aux questions.
Bonjour, M. Poilievre, Anne-Sophie Jobin pour TVA Nouvelles. Je veux
Good morning for TVA.
Qui fait beaucoup réagir aujourd'hui. Est-ce que vous pensez
talking about the Honda affair this morning, and there's been a lot of reaction.
Ça a bugué un peu. Laisser tomber les contre-tarifs sur les voitures.
Do you think it's time to drop the counter tariffs? Is now the time?
Tout d'abord, je condamne Monsieur Trump pour les
First of all, I condemn Mr. Trump for these unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs. It's incredible that he's continuing to threaten Canada with tariffs when he's put a pause on tariffs elsewhere in the world. Unfortunately, after the lost Liberal decade, our economy is weaker and more vulnerable than ever. The increases in tax, red tape, blocking of our natural resources have left us vulnerable in the face of the Americans, and that needs to change with a new Conservative government, a government that will strengthen our economy by cutting taxes on investments, energy, home building, and remove GST on vehicles made here in Canada in order to encourage people to buy Canadian-made automobiles. That's how we will strengthen our economy. No one can control Mr. Trump, but we can control what we are able to. That means reversing the disastrous Liberal policies that Mr. Carney advised Mr. Trudeau to adopt and to make real change. This will strengthen our economy and make our country safe, affordable, and full of promise. Thank you.
Thank you. No.
But should the counter tariffs be removed? No, we won't drop them.
Thank you very much for your question. First of all, President Trump deserves nothing but condemnation for the unfair targeting of Canada. While he's lifting tariffs and backing down on tariffs all around the world, he continues to tariff our auto sector. There's nobody who's going to be able to control President Trump, as Mr. Carney is learning, despite his promises. What we should do is focus on what we can control, and that is to reverse the disastrous Liberal economic policies that Mr. Carney advised Trudeau to take, that have driven up taxes, blocked our resources, wrapped our businesses in red tape, and driven $500 billion south. We need change. We can't afford a fourth Liberal term. We need change to axe taxes, cut red tape, approve resource projects, make this the best place in the world to do business. That will allow us to, once again, be a country where hard work pays off, with a great paycheck and a reliable job in an affordable house on a safe street. We need is change. This is a change election. Change so that you can afford food and a home. Change so that your paycheck grows faster than your cost of living. Change so that you're safe in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Merci. Prochaine question.
No, we should not lift counter tariffs.
Good morning. Sorry. Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. On a different topic, I was wondering if you could tell us what you mean concretely when you say you'll end woke culture in the public service and the military.
Very simply, after a lost Liberal decade of dividing Canadians, turning people against each other, and weakening our armed forces, we need to put Canada first. We need to unite all Canadians around our common promise, a promise that hard work gets you a great life on a safe street, and by the way, in an affordable home under our proud flag. Unfortunately, the Liberals have been distracted from that mission. I think of, for example, their woke criminal justice agenda, which releases the same radically violent criminals onto our streets again and again and again. Instead of that, we should lock up the criminals. Their woke agenda on spending has doubled our debt, given us the worst inflation in 40 years, so that single moms are having to turn back some of the groceries that they're trying to buy when they get to the till and see the price, and has endangered our people in our streets. We need to reverse that, get back to Canadian values of living within our means, leaving more in the pockets of the hardworking people, and letting people get ahead. So the election is really about change. Do you want a fourth Liberal term of skyrocketing costs and crime? Or do you think it's time for a new Conservative government that will change things so you can afford food and homes and be safe on your street? Thank you.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Par exemple, les politiques.
Thank you very much.
Woke sur la criminalité.
For example, the woke policies on crime.
Des criminels les plus violents.
These have let the most violent criminals out in the streets hundreds of times. These are Liberal policies. They have endangered our people. Woke policies causing inflation by doubling our debt, increasing taxes, and we can't take the risk of having a fourth Liberal term. We've seen skyrocketing crime and costs, and we need a change with a new Conservative government that will cut taxes, make life affordable again, green light housing construction projects, and unlock our natural resources, and bring back the Canadian promise. Thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poilievre.
Good morning.
La presse canadienne.
From La Presse Canadienne.
Aujourd'hui encore, vous arrivez avec
Once again today, you have come with proposals for stricter sentencing, and you've been doing that for a few days in different areas. So the 3 strikes you're out law for multiple sentencing and charges, and for intimate partner violence. Do you have any probative data that shows that a tightening of sentences will reduce crime? Because we've seen in the U.S. that they have more severe sentences, but crime is higher. I encourage you to look at the data again if that's the conclusion you've come to. But yes, I do have concrete evidence. First of all, during the Harper years, we brought crime down by 25%. And that was after implementing stricter sentencing. Since the Liberals have come into power, they removed all harsh policies on crime. We've seen an increase of 50%. And that's in violent crimes. Should I go through the different types of crime? Do you want more specifics? Because I can give more examples. I gave many examples talking about gun crimes. That has gone up 116% since the Liberals took away mandatory sentencing for use of guns in crime. Or when the Liberals removed mandatory sentencing for extortion with weapons, it went up by 350%. Or when they allowed auto theft offenders to serve Netflix sentences, we saw an increase of 46%. Gang-related crime has gone up by 118% since the Liberals reduced penalties for gang members. So is this not data that shows that if we let the same criminals be released over and over again, as the Liberals have done, we will have more dangerous streets. But when we had the experience under the Conservatives 10 years ago, we reduced crime by 25%. So there is no debate. Releasing criminals makes life dangerous. And after 10 years of Liberals, we can't take the risk of having a 4th Liberal term.
In English as well. The question was, do I have any evidence that locking up repeat violent offenders actually reduces crime? And the answer is yes, I do. When Conservatives were last in power, we brought in mandatory jail time for serious repeat offenders. Violent crime went down by 25%. And incarcerations actually dropped because it deterred crime. Since the Liberals took office and passed catch and release, house arrest, and the get-out-of-jail-free card for Paul Bernardo, violent crime has exploded, up 50%. Gun crime, since they started got rid of the mandatory jail time for gun offenses, gun crime is up 116%. Murders by gangs, up 78%, right after the Liberals passed catch and release bail. Car theft went up 46% after Liberals brought in house arrest for car thieves who can now sit around in their living room playing Grand Theft Auto while they're serving their sentences. Extortion went up 357% after the Liberals eliminated mandatory jail time for extortion with a gun. So those are the facts. You let repeat violent offenders back out on the street, you get more crime under the Liberals. That's the record. We cannot afford the danger and risk of a 4th Liberal term of catch and release criminal justice. We need a change to lock up repeat offenders, make our streets safe, and restore the Canadian promise with a new Conservative government.
Merci. On va maintenant passer à la dernière question.
Now we'll go to the last question.
Christopher Nardi from the National Post. I'm going to quote a well-known parliamentarian and say this is just a simple yes or no question. Will you defund the CBC within 100 days of government?
I don't have a time frame, but we've already said I've already made my position clear on that, and it hasn't changed. We're going to defund the CBC and let Canadians enjoy it as a nonprofit, self-funded organization. Yeah, which is what I've said all along, while protecting services at Radio-Canada, because without Radio-Canada, the francophones across the country would not have access to that information.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
In French, please.
Merci beaucoup. On a déjà annoncé il y a 2 ans.
2 years ago, we already announced.
All right, we are listening to Pierre Poilievre. He's in Montreal today making a crime announcement specifically about seniors cracking down on scams.